Severe Cyclone Mocha made landfall in Bangladesh near Cox's Bazar and the North Myanmar coast this afternoon. Heavy rains and strong gusty winds up to 200 km per hour lashed the coasts of Bangladesh and Myanmar. The meteorologist had predicted the wind speed in the Bay of Bengal to reach 200 km per hour, and an alert was sounded for Cox's Bazar seaport, Chattogram and Paira port in Bangladesh. It was warned that a catastrophic event is unfolding as Cyclone Mocha barrels towards the Myanmar and Bangladesh coasts. The storm will be equivalent to a Category 4 hurricane. The World Meteorological Organization, a United Nations agency, has warned the super cyclone will cause heavy rain, flooding and landslides across the coast of the two countries. The peripheral effects of Cyclone Mocha began over the coastal areas of Chattogram and Barisal divisions early today. The very strong cyclonic storm, according to the advisory, was located at midnight about 490 kilometers south-southwest of Chattogram port, 410 kilometers south-southwest of Cox's Bazar port, 530 kilometers south of Mongla port and 460 kilometers south of Paira port. A court granted bail to Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan for 2 weeks in a corruption case and ordered his protection from arrest on any charges, amid concerns that he would be immediately re-arrested on his release. Security was tight as Khan appeared at a hearing at Islamabad High Court seeking bail in multiple cases. He had been in police custody after being arrested on the premises of the court by almost 100 paramilitary officers. To the anger of the government, Khan was granted relief when the Supreme Court ruled that the manner of his arrest on court premises was illegal and ordered him to seek bail from the High Court. He stayed overnight at a police guest house but was no longer a detainee. A gunman shot and killed 8 people and wounded at least 7 others at a busy mall north of Dallas. The gunman, whom authorities said they think acted alone and whose motive was not yet known, was killed by a police officer after he began firing outside of the Allen Premier Outlets Mall in Allen, Texas. The shooting sparked panic at Allen Premium Outlets, a sprawling shopping complex in Allen, 25 miles north of Dallas, filled with weekend shoppers. The identity of the shooter was not released. His body, sprawled on a sidewalk, was one of the 7 deaths at the mall when more police arrived. Among the wounded at area hospitals, 3 were in critical surgery and 4 were said to be stable initially. Some of the victims were as young as 5 years old. Texas Governor Greg Abbott called the mass shooting an unspeakable tragedy. President Joe Biden has been briefed on the shooting. He said local officials hailed the action of the police officer who charged and killed the shooter. Video footage aired by CNN showed the shooter getting out of a sedan in the parking lot of the mall and beginning his rampage. Authorities believed initially that the second shooter might be on the loose. As police combed through stores in the mall, frantic shoppers and store employees rushed into parking lots. Nearly 200 people died as a result of flash floods and landslides in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, with many more still missing in South Kivu. Heavy rainfall in Kalehe territory in South Kivu province caused rivers to overflow, inundating hundreds of homes in Bushushu and Naimukubi. Rescue workers and survivors had to dig through the ruins looking for bodies. At the scene, Thomas Bakange, administrator of Kalehe, the worst-hit territory, told reporters that 203 bodies had been recovered and further efforts were underway. Villagers wept as they gathered around some of the bodies recovered, which laid on the grass covered in muddy clothes near a rescue workers' post. Authorities reported scores of people injured. Heavy rains in recent days have brought misery to thousands of East Africa, with parts of Uganda and Kenya also seeing heavy rainfall. Flooding and landslides in Rwanda, which borders Congo, left 129 people dead earlier this week and destroyed over 5,000 homes. Congo president declared a national day of mourning to honor the victims. Donald Trump's one term in office produced several presidential firsts in the legal system. He was the first president to be impeached twice, the first president to have been charged with a crime, and now the first president to be deemed liable for sexual assault by a jury of his peers. More than a dozen women have accused Mr. Trump of sexual misconduct over the years, but in the first and only sexual abuse allegation affirmed by a jury, a Manhattan jury found former President Donald J. Trump liable for sexually abusing and defaming Jean Carroll and awarded her $5 million in damages. Jean Carroll had alleged that Trump assaulted her in a dressing room in Bergdorf Goodman in the spring of 1996. The former columnist for the LA magazine also claimed that Trump defamed her when he called her a complete con job after she went public with the allegations in 2019. Trump, the 76-year-old frontrunner for the Republican nominations in next year's presidential election, has called her case a hoax and a lie. In the civil case, the federal jury of 6 men and 3 women found that Ms. Carroll, 79, a former magazine writer, had sufficiently proved that Mr. Trump sexually abused her nearly 30 years ago. The jury did not, however, find he had raped her, as she had long claimed. Israeli aircraft conducted strikes on Palestinian Islamic Jihad targets in the Gaza Strip, the Israeli military said, and the group said 3 senior commanders and members of their families were killed in the attacks. Witnesses said an explosion hit the top floor of an apartment building in Gaza City and a house in the southern city of Rafah. Airstrikes continued in the early hours, targeting militant training sites. The Palestinian Health Ministry said that 12 additional people were killed in the airstrike after the number was initially reported at 9. The PIG claimed that the wives of the 3 commanders and a number of their children were also killed. The Israeli army said that the aerial bombings were directed at the residences of 3 senior commanders of the Iranian-backed group. It added that 3 were responsible for recent rocket fire towards Israel. The bombings, codenamed Operation Shield and Arrow, targeted Khalil Bahatini, the PIG commander for the northern Gaza Strip, Tariq Izzeldin, the group's intermediary between its Gaza and West Bank members, and Jihad Ghanam, the secretary of the Islamic Jihad's military council. New Zealand's largest city of Auckland declared a local state of emergency due to floods and torrential rainfall. Traffic was at a standstill in Auckland as the city entered its 3rd state of emergency due to severe weather this year. The Meteorological Agency issued weather warnings and watches for many parts of the North Island. The North Island was affected by severe floods in January and Cyclone Gabriel in February, which killed at least 11 people. The government will step up its support for those affected by flooding in Auckland, said Minister for Emergency Management Kieran McAnulty. The National Emergency Management Agency's National Coordination Centre was activated and the government stood ready to provide any support that was needed, McAnulty said. Auckland Emergency Management opened a civil defence centre to assist those that have been displaced or needed assistance following the severe weather.